has gathered such weight and such attention that it gets us right now talking about the credibility of these claims that that they are who they say they are, that this is a kingdom in a woodland in Jedburgh. And I mean, I suppose, I think it is wise at these times to sit down and have a nice cold glass of water and think very clearly about what we genuinely think. That is what they say. We know what their names are that aren't King Atahene and Queen Nandi and Asnat. We know who they really are. As for their beliefs, as for why they feel that they have the right to stay there, that is their affair.
Davy Shanks has the story for us. He's a journalist and lecturer based in Scotland. Davy, this is an odd one. So just to be clear, this is a self-styled African tribe. That's what they call themselves. There's only 3 of them. They call themselves the Kingdom of Kabala. And the reason why they're in Scotland is because they think they have an ancestral claim to the land.
That is why they say they're in Scotland. That's correct. I mean, this is an extraordinary story of 3 people who have wrapped themselves in an extraordinary story. You introduced the main characters, 36-year-old Kofi Offey from Ghana, who goes by the name King Atahene, Jean Gasho, his 43-year-old wife, Queen Nandi from Zimbabwe, and the handmaiden Cora Taylor, an extraordinary story herself, who left her home in Texas to join the group, going by the name Asnat now. They've been there since May, living in woodland in Jedburgh in the Scottish borders, saying the land is theirs from their ancestors 400 years ago. Now, where they are staying, the Kingdom of Kabala, you mentioned a bit of the back and forth that has happened. The Kingdom of Kabala has shifted around slightly. They were previously camping on private land in Jedburgh. They were served an eviction notice. Sheriff officers turned up to move them on, which they did, to council-owned land just a few metres away across a fence. Now, a ruling last week banned them from council-owned land too, but they are refusing to move. Now, what happened today at Selkirk Sheriff Court was Sheriff Peter Patterson said they were not able to return back to that patch of private land. So the Kingdom of Kabala cannot be on private land. It's no longer allowed on council land, yet they remain there too.
Gosh, so someone's going to have to do, I mean, what is the next stage, I suppose, for them to be arrested and put into the land of jail? I don't know. I mean, what on earth happens next?
Well, the local authority are continuing to try and enforce these rulings that are being made through the court. And in the meantime, as you'd imagine with the media attention that has come with it, reporters have been turning up. They're told, I understand, that they must bring offerings to King Kofi Offey before he will speak to them, as he is king of this self-styled kingdom as well. But also, in the modern era, what you also will have now is crowds of influencers. The Kingdom of Kabala itself has a presence on social media, which has a reasonably big following, and all of these stories generate lots and lots of views and lots of comments. Of course, now what we have is social media influencers turning up in Jedburgh to try and find these people, talk to these people, which is also upsetting locals and causing some disorder that we've seen a bit of. But I mean, it's a fantastical, strange story. And you ask what happens next. We've had a spectacular summer here in Scotland, weeks and weeks without rain, warm days, warm evenings. But as we say up here, the nights are fair drawing in, and kingdom or no, it's going to start to become a much less pleasant place to be camping outside in.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you know what the camp looks like. I mean, is it literally that? Have they got
It is
tents
literally,
there,
it is literally tents set up in the woods, such that they have been able to move it several times over the last few weeks. There are tents set up, there's seats, there's bonfires for cooking on, and that is it. I mean, at the core of it, it is 3 people camping in a forest, and the local authority are trying to move them on, and no ruling seems to have done the trick just yet.
And just expand a bit on why Jedburgh, why that particular site?
Well, what we have is what they have said. I mean, they say that land is from ancestors 400 years ago. What weight you give to that claim, I will leave up to you.
Have they got any proof, Davy?
They do. Well, not as far as I've seen anyway. Not that they have been able to bring to the court. but they have been on somebody else's land, private land, and the land that they're on now belongs to the local authority as well. And they have been told that they're not allowed to stay on either of those anymore.
Gosh, I wonder what the basis for their claim is, that land was stolen from their ancestors 400 years ago. There has to be a story behind that. It'd be interesting to hear what that is. And look, there was a bit of a scuffle, or certainly arguments today, the Sun is reporting, between locals and this self-styled African tribe as well. So clearly it is reaching a point where it does need assertive action, hence the action of the court today, I suppose, in banning this tribe from moving back to private land. They're already banned from being on that, as you say, council land. So where they go next is quite something. Do they have particular beliefs? Do they stand for anything in particular, apart from saying that this land is theirs by right?
I mean, this is the strange thing about this story. I mean, obviously, it is very attractive from a news perspective because of how singularly odd it is. This is not something that we hear about. This is not something that happens in a Scottish woodland particularly often. So it has gathered such weight and such attention that it gets us right now talking about the credibility of these claims, that that they are who they say they are, that this is a kingdom in a woodland in Jedburgh. And I mean, I suppose, I think it is wise at these times to sit down and have a nice cold glass of water and think very clearly about what we genuinely think. That is what they say. We know what their names are, that aren't King Atahene and Queen Nandi and Asnat. We know who they really are. As for their beliefs, as for why they feel that they have the right to stay there, that is their affair.
Yeah, that is not quite being explained by them. Neither is there any evidence at all to say that land was stolen from their ancestors 400 years ago. Look, it is a curious tale, and we thought we'd bring it to our listeners' ears. Thanks for covering it with us, Davy Shanks, a journalist and lecturer in Scotland. Good to speak to you, Davy. Thank you.